What if China invades Ukraine first? Ukraine is currently in a very tough spot right now. Their next door neighbor, Russia, is looking very threatening and very interested in potentially invading. Currently, the Russian army, which is vastly superior to that of the Ukrainian army, has mobilized over 100,000 troops and put them in various locations along their shared border with Ukraine. This is causing the entire world to go into a bit of a panic because allowing Russia to simply take Ukraine isn't an option anymore. Ukraine has been getting closer and closer to the very powerful organization of NATO, and NATO doesn't really like it when other countries invade their friends. Considering that's what Russia is thinking about doing, NATO is also thinking about interfering and stopping them from doing that. This could escalate very quickly and could turn into a war that is far deadlier than anyone would have expected or wanted. The one positive here is that Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, has come out and said that he has no intentions of invading Russia and he is simply moving his troops around as he sees fit. Many of the other world leaders don't believe this though, and I tend to agree with them. Moving that many troops to that specific spot sends a pretty clear message and puts the rest of the world on standby. However, what if Putin is telling the truth? What if they don't have any intention of invading Ukraine and he is just simply doing as he says, moving his troops around as he sees fit? What if the world is looking at this all wrong and Russia isn't even a threat at all? What if the real threat is China? Before we go deep down this rabbit hole, I want to start off by saying that this whole question is totally theoretical and there is really no basis to believe China will be attacking Ukraine anytime soon. Russia has a deep history with Ukraine, one that spans over centuries. Most recently, we've seen Ukraine be a part of the Soviet Union, and then once the Soviet Union was dissolved, Ukraine became their own independent country. Therefore, Russian and Ukrainian culture are very similar, and there are tons of people that live in Ukraine that were initially of Russian descent. It's this history that makes Russia so invested in Ukraine and wanting them to be a part of their territory. China doesn't have any of this though. There is no deep history between China and Ukraine, and their cultures are wildly different. One could argue that Russia's potential invasion of Ukraine is personal, whereas there would be nothing personal about a Chinese invasion of Ukraine. If they were to invade such a place, it would strictly be a strategical move that they would believe would benefit their country's well-being long term. Either way, the point that I'm trying to make here is that you shouldn't start to worry about China invading Ukraine because it is extremely unlikely and frankly wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. But this is YouTube and things don't always need to make sense for us to evaluate them here. So with that being said, what if China invades Ukraine first? Well, first off, the world would probably be shocked as holy hell. Speculation of China invading Taiwan has been going on for some time now, but an invasion of Ukraine would absolutely blow everyone's minds and likely have the world in a bit of a shocked territory. While the world is in deep shock, Ukraine would definitely be going through it. We've already evaluated whether or not Ukraine would be able to handle a Russian invasion by themselves in a previous video, so if you haven't seen that, then definitely go and check it out. But basically, short answer is absolutely not. China and Russia are very comparable in military strength. China has Russia beat in personnel by a ton, but for the most part aren't quite as strong in equipment. Their navy does outdo Russia's, but not by a crazy amount. Either way, both countries are very comparable in strength, and if Ukraine was going to struggle with Russia, then they would also struggle with China. However, let's actually think about this logistically. Sure, if we compare Ukraine's military to China's military side by side, China has a massive advantage. But war doesn't just go off of only numbers. Ukraine is 5,943 kilometers away from China and literally in a different continent. If China actually was going to invade Ukraine, how would they do it? For Russia, it's as simple as crossing a border, but it's not nearly as simple for China. Sure, they have millions of troops at their disposal, but how do they get them over there? How about all of their tanks or armored vehicles? Invading Ukraine would be way harder for the Chinese because they don't have a stronghold to set up anywhere. To effectively win an invasion, they would need to set up a base of operations far closer to Ukraine or in Ukraine, which the Ukrainian people wouldn't really like too much. Therefore, even though China has a massive advantage in overall strength, geography plays a huge role in this, and it's not favoring them in this scenario. It could be possible that China gets in an agreement with Russia, and Russia allows them to move all their troops into Russia and use their country as a base of operations. This begs the question though, why isn't Russia just invading Ukraine themselves? But we're already in fantasy land right now, so let's just roll with it. If Russia allowed China to do this, then China would have a much stronger foundation and could launch a massive invasion. However, there are severe complications with this plan as well. If the rest of the world saw that China was mobilizing hundreds of thousands of troops, they were mobilizing tanks and armored vehicles and other things, and they were driving them all the way through Russia to the border of Ukraine, then I can guarantee they would respond pretty fast. NATO, the alliance of countries that has publicly said they will come to Ukraine's aid, would feel even more incentive to get involved and defend the country. If Russia is allowing China to invade through them, then that means that they're very close allies, and it probably means that the war of East versus West is beginning. NATO wouldn't sit back and chill just letting them set up like this, they would start setting up as well. Before you know it, there would be millions of troops all lined up on either side of the Ukrainian border waiting for something to happen. And if this is the case, then if China were to attack, then the only thing we'd know for sure is that World War III would definitely be starting. Who would win or how it would all play out is pretty impossible to say at this point. If China didn't get to set up in Russia though and had to do this all by themselves, then I feel like Ukraine might be able to actually defend themselves. China's strongest asset is their navy, but they wouldn't really even be able to get that involved. Ukraine is connected to the Black Sea, but for China to get their ships into the Black Sea, they would need to sail them all the way around Africa, then through the Mediterranean Sea, and then into the Black Sea. This is wildly impractical, and in between them and their final destination is multiple countries that probably wouldn't want them to be doing this. So basically, the Navy is totally taken out of this equation. Probably the only thing that China could do is just bomb the crap out of a specific location in Ukraine, completely destroy it, and then fly a bunch of planes there to set up a base. But again, there are so many issues with this plan and so many infinite ways that it could go wrong that I just can't possibly see it happening. Invading Ukraine just probably isn't possible for China considering how far away it is and how many allies Ukraine has readily at their disposal. I suppose China could send a bunch of nuclear bombs over there and just do it that way, but then they wouldn't actually be invading in the first place at all, they would just be attacking, which isn't really the question. Also, if they sent a bunch of nuclear bombs over there, then that would cause massive consequences. If China just started nuking Ukraine, then that would probably be the beginning of our total nuclear annihilation of the whole planet, and that's just something that nobody needs. All in all, if China invades Ukraine first, I actually think that they're gonna lose. Now granted, if China invaded Ukraine whilst Russia also invaded Ukraine, then that is a far different story and changes literally everything about this question. We've been attacking this question assuming that Russia just sits and lets China do this, but that would actually never happen in real life. However, none of this would ever actually happen in real life. If some guy on YouTube can look at this and figure this out, then China and its military leaders definitely can as well. They would look at this for about 1 second and go, yeah, so that's not gonna work, I guess we aren't gonna do that, and then just move on. The biggest thing about this question too is motive. Russia has one that's been gnawing at them for years. China doesn't have any at all. Like, yes, obviously big countries like to get more territory, but not at the risk of losing your entire army in the process. If China is going to invade anyone, then it will probably be Taiwan, but that's a completely other different video. But anyways guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think about this whole Ukraine situation and how it's going to unfold. If Russia invades, will China get involved or just sit back and let them handle all the smoke? Also, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host Nicholas Playlog, and I'll catch you next time.